Dobry den.
Здравейте.
And welcome back to our little Bulgarian adventure.
Well, what a week we've had. We've done things, we've been places, all sorts of things, haven't we?
We have a little bit.
We have, yeah. In fact, shall we show them?
Go on then.
Have a look at this.
Well, this week's video is going to be something a bit different from normal. Normally I take you through a project and show you from start to finish, or start to as far as I've got if it's a longer project. This week we've got a series of smaller jobs to do as well as project jobs. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you us doing different bits and pieces and show you how our week kind of pans out. It's currently Saturday morning. Our first job we've got to do for the week is clear this room so that we can put the full ceiling up. So we've now moved out everything we need to move out so we can do the ceiling. Things like the washing machine, bits of furniture we're going to cover with dust sheets. All I need to be able to do is put the tracking around the edges, beams in and ceiling up. So I shouldn't make too much mess. So some of that stuff can stay in here. But for now, this will do for this job. So let's get on with something else. The other job I've set myself today is bottling my latest batch of beer. Now it's in my new fermenting fridge, which I'll show you in a moment, but it needs taking out and putting in bottles. Well, this is it, my new fermenting fridge, and inside I have a batch of beer waiting to be bottled. So that's 12 bottles of beer and 3 litres in plastic bottles in the fermenting fridge, which I'm using to condition the beer and carbonate it because I can control the temperature. And a further 25 bottles, there's 24 on the lower shelf, 1 on an upper shelf, which will condition a bit slower, just in the temperature of the cellar. So that's my beer bottled. That's another job ticked off the list. Well, it's Sunday morning and you can see behind me we're in Hytreno, which means one thing, we're off to the market. So that's Hytreno market. Fruit and veg at this end, odds and ends at the other. So we'll have a mooch about and see if there's anything that takes our fancy. Well, this is one of the stalls that Lynn's interested in. It's the tree stall, where you get your fruit trees. So they've got plenty there to look at, and you never know, we might end up going home with some trees. As usual, we have the usual birds that you can choose from.
A w sieci emisji może wysłyszeć równą nowina.bg.
So you can see from this angle there's a lot of stalls selling a lot of stuff. This is the more kind of textile and second-hand bits and pieces. You never know what you're going to find up here. The other end is more the kind of fruit and veg, household products. Something here has obviously caught Lynn's attention. Exactly what? I don't know. Well, our next stop this Sunday is Praktika. I need some more insulation for the ceilings, so we'll pick some up here on our way through. So we've got the insulation and other bits and pieces we're looking for. Now it's time to go and see what they've got in T-Max. Well, we've come to what has to be described as Lynn's favourite shop. Where are we, hon?
We're at T-Max.
We're at T-Max. Well, we finished at T-Max, and on the way out of Schumann we saw a garden centre. So we stopped and Lynn bought some flowers. Well, I'm sure they'll get planted during the week and they'll brighten up the garden. So we should have quite a nice display for spring. It's Monday morning and the weather's turned a bit colder, so this might be the last time this year I need to collect firewood. I've got to collect some and split some. And there's the wood, hopefully the last lot of wood I need for this year. We've got smaller stuff, bigger stuff. We've got some fire starting kindling up in the house, so that should do us. Next on our list of jobs for this week is putting up the suspended ceiling. We've covered things with these dust sheets so that the stuff that's left in the room doesn't get covered in mess as I'm drilling. So all that's left now is bring in the scaffolding and get on with it. I've marked the blue line all around the top of the room like I did in the hallway to show where the tracking is going. So now I've got to put the tracking up. Now, I've seen other people do this on YouTube. I'm going to see if it works for me. Well, it appears to work. I might do it for the rest of the job. If I'd known that earlier, things would go so much quicker. So there we have our hangers up, our beams up, our tracking up, all ready for the insulation of the plasterboard. It's been a long day, but worthwhile. So that concludes my work for Monday. If you're wondering why I'm wearing the hat, it's because I keep hitting my head on these bits, and it's just to protect my head. That's a complete change of weather. It's Tuesday morning and the snow's arrived. So from 28 degrees on Saturday to -1 this morning. Well, it's Tuesday morning. You've just seen the weather has changed a lot over the last few days, and it's now very cold and we've even got snow. So I'm inside again, and today it's insulation and plasterboard day. Get that up on the ceiling. That'll be then ready for taping. But that's my job today, and it'll be all hands on deck again. Max and Lynn both helping me get the plasterboard up on the ceiling. So let's see how that goes. Well, it's going quite well. We've got the first bit up, insulation up. So while we're on a high, I think we'll stop for some lunch. So at the end of Tuesday, we've now got our ceiling in, fully plasterboarded. It needs taping, filling and plastering, but other than that, we've got a much better surface than we had previously, and it's fully insulated. So I'm going to tick that off as a job well done, move on to the next thing. Well, it's now Wednesday morning, and you can see normal service has been resumed with the weather. We're back to sunshine. It's not very warm yet, but at least we've lost the snow, so I can get on. My first job this morning is back in the spare room, but I'll show you that in a moment. So this morning's job is preparing the plasterboard edges for the taping and sealing. Now, where we've got the kind of, if you're familiar with plasterboard, the edges kind of have a dip to prepare the space for the taping. So you can put your plaster in, put your tape on, plaster over it, and it gives you a nice surface. And also it's got something to grip to. Now, on these edges where you haven't got this groove, you have to make a groove. So I'm going to be cutting V sections all the way through these bits so that the plaster got something to grip to when I come to tape it. It's a messy job. It's going to involve the hat again. But the sooner I do it, the sooner I can clean up afterwards. So that's the grooves cut in the ends of the boards up on the ceiling. I can now fill those up with plaster and do the taping. Two things did occur to me. Firstly, using a knife was very slow and quite messy. Using the multi-tool was a lot better. And secondly, I should have done this before I put them up on the ceiling. Still, you live and learn. I'm going to stop work for the time being on the spare room because we now find we have a need for a new shelf. We're going to run it along the back wall here, join onto that shelf to about here, and that'll be for obviously putting stuff on. So I'm going to go and find out what wood I've got. We'll cut it, sand it, stain it, and put the shelf up. So that's the new shelf in place, in use. We've had a little rearrange of stuff in this corner just to make it more usable, but job well done. It's now Thursday morning and we've been spending some time doing a bit of rearranging in the kitchen after the new shelf was put in. I turned my attention to our kitchen knives. Now, none of these are particularly sharp at the moment, so I've got a new knife sharpener which I'm going to try out and see how effective it is. This is the knife sharpener. It's one of those rotary ones. I'll show you how it works in a moment. Hopefully it'll get the knives sharp. I've not used one of these before, so let's find out how well it works. So I'm going to start with this. It's just a small knife. It's seen better days. The tip's missing, but it's not at all sharp. You see them do this test with where they try and cut through the. It's not happening, is it? So it doesn't cut the paper. It's blunt as blunt can be. Now apparently what I do is I clip that onto there and go backwards and forwards with the sharpener. Okay, now let's see if it does any better on the paper. Well, it's certainly an improvement. I can carry on working on that for a bit, which I will, but I have to say, this works.
So that was our week.
Yeah, busy, wasn't it?
All a bit interchangeable with the weather.
Yes.
I felt a little bit off colour midweek, but then I always do when we get bad weather changes.
Yes, we went from 23 degrees down to, well, even higher,
Yeah.
down to a high of 3 degrees in about 3 days.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It always seems to bring on some sort of cold, or cough.
It did. And I was wrong. It wasn't the last time I had to collect firewood.
But I did tell you were tempted.
You did tell me. I said, well, let's see what happens. And you were right.
But we should have passed our last frost date now.
We think so,
So
yes.
I can get on with tidying up in the garden and
Planting
planting
stuff and
things,
yes.
which is very exciting.
Well, yeah, yes it is, yes.
You'll
So-
get more into planting as we get on.
I expect so. At the moment, it's all about plastering for me.
Yeah, it is for me too. I really need that room back actually.
It's coming. It's coming. But then that's Christmas. But I think you're totally up to date with us. In a couple of weeks, well, in a week on Saturday is Palamarza. Now, usually we say the day before, but we realise that doesn't give people much notice if they want to go. So it's on the 30th of March, a week's time tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll be there. There'll be other people there, obviously. People you may not have met before. So come along and see who's there.
Yeah, it's always a good day.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably it.
Just leaves us to say,
Stay safe.
be well.
Do skoro.
Do skoro.